Welcome to Career Ambitions, the podcast for corporate professionals who are ready to stop waiting and take control of their careers. If you're tired of sending applications into the void, wondering why you're not getting interviews, and watching opportunities go to people who are no more qualified than you're in the right place, my friends. I'm Joanne Sparrow, former HR director turned career coach, and I've spent more than 2 decades sitting on the other side of the hiring table. That means I know exactly what hiring managers think and what they say behind closed doors. Join me on this episode of Career Ambitions, where I'm pulling back the curtains on the hiring process and unapologetically exposing the truths job seekers are never told to give you the strategy and confidence to move your career forward and land your dream job or promotion. Welcome to Career Ambitions. This episode is a juicy one. Recovering from a bad interview. Every candidate, including myself, has likely had at least one. The interview where nothing went the way you planned. You blanked out on a question you knew the answer to. You rambled through a response that started strong and just fell apart. And you left the building knowing it didn't go the way it should have. Most candidates do one of two things after a bad interview. They either spiral into self-criticism and write off the opportunity entirely, or they do nothing and hope the interviewer somehow forgets what happened. Neither of those two approaches work, and neither of them reflects what it is actually possible when you handle the recovery correctly. A bad interview is not automatically a lost opportunity. What you do in the 24 hours after will determine whether you're staying in the running or not. Here's why most candidates do not recover. The reason why most candidates fail to recover from a bad interview is simple. They treat it as a final. They walk out, replay every moment that went wrong, and convince themselves the decision has already been made. So they do not send the follow-up. They do not address the elephant in the room. They just wait for a rejection email that they were already expecting. Here is what they do not realize. Hiring managers interview multiple candidates across multiple days or even weeks. By the time they sit down to make a decision, the details of each conversation have blurred. What they remember is not every answer you gave. They remember how you made them feel and whether you followed through afterward. A strong, specific, well-timed follow-up can absolutely shift the outcome. Not always, but more often than candidates think. Step 1, send a follow-up within 24 hours. This is not optional ever, and it is not just a thank you note. Most candidates send a generic follow-up that says something like, "Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed learning more about the role." That really adds nothing and changes nothing. A recovery follow-up does something different. It acknowledges the conversation specifically, addresses anything that did not land the way you intended, and reinforces your fit for the role with something concrete. And it's going to sound something like this. "Thank you for your time today. I wanted to follow up with the question about managing a pipeline through a long enterprise cycle. I felt my answer was incomplete in the moment, and I wanted to give you a more clear picture. In my last role at XYZ, I managed 14 enterprise accounts simultaneously with an average cycle of 8 months. I kept deals moving by doing Y, and the result was Z. I am confident that experience translates directly to what you're building, and I am genuinely excited about this opportunity." That is not desperation, my friends. That is professionalism. And it demonstrates exactly the kind of self-awareness and follow-through that hiring managers are evaluating for throughout the entire recruitment process. Step 2 is address the weak moment directly and move past it. The instinct after a bad interview is to avoid mentioning anything that went wrong. I want you to do the opposite. Hiring managers respect candidates who can identify a gap in their own performance, own it clearly, and react without over-explaining or apologizing excessively. That kind of self-awareness is actually a positive signal in a sales candidate because it mirrors exactly the skill you need when a deal goes sideways. One sentence is enough. Acknowledge it, correct it, and redirect to your strengths. Don't dwell on it, and do not repeat the apology multiple times. Say it once, say it well, and move forward. Step 3, reinforce your fit with something they did not ask about. The follow-up is also an opportunity to add something to the conversation that didn't come up in the interview itself. A relevant result from your current or previous role, a specific insight about their market or their product that demonstrates you have been doing real research, a connection between a challenge they mentioned and something you have already solved. This is not about overwhelming them with information. It's about giving them one more reason to keep you in the conversation. One additional data point that makes your candidacy stronger than it was when you walked out the door. And here's the mind shift that changes everything. Most candidates think the interview ends when you leave the building. The ones that get offers understand that the interview continues until a decision is made. Every touch point after the conversation is an extension of your candidacy. The follow-up email, the response time, the tone of your communication, the specificity of what you say. All of it is being evaluated, whether you realize it or not. A bad interview followed by a strong, specific, timely recovery shows something that a perfect interview cannot always show. It shows you how you handle adversity. And in sales, that is one of the most valuable things a hiring manager can see. If you're ready to fast track your job search and land your dream job, reach out to me and let's work together. Until next time, make it a great day. Thank you so much for listening to Career Ambitions. If this episode gave you a new perspective, a practical takeaway, or even a little spark of confidence you needed, I would love for you to follow the show and leave a review. And if you're an ambitious corporate professional who's ready to stop guessing and start moving with a clear strategy, I would love to invite you to my masterclass. Inside this masterclass, I teach the exact strategies my clients are using to land their dream jobs. You can learn more about the masterclass in the show notes or at joannesparrow.com. See you in the next episode of Career Ambitions.